All right.
Hey, we got it.
Hey, we're back now. We have audio.
Hey.
Um,
Hey.
We have audio now. So, a little behind the scenes thing. I got a new computer and I did not change all the settings, right? And I forgot to turn the audio back on. So, we're gonna take this from the top again. Rewind.
Which is
Fortunately,
good because I forgot to hit record during that whole thing, so I just
Oh, hey.
too.
Look at us go. We are on top of it. What a week. Lemon, it's Wednesday. Hey everybody. Oh, hold on, I gotta do it again.
Yep.
Hello everybody. Welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Sean Connolly.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devin. I was like, Ryan still will not pick this
Yeah,
up.
he won't.
No, I was waiting for him to go back to his name again.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope, not this time. Still no audio. But we should be good now. We should be good now. Right? Can they hear us now?
Let me pull open.
Can they hear us now?
Yes. We are
Yes,
certainly,
okay.
we're
Awesome.
certainly good.
Good. All right, that was an easy fix. So today we're going to talk about the first James Bond film, which was Devin's pick, Dr. No. Before we do that, we like to talk about things in pop culture that we haven't talked about. That we've seen in the last week. I'm going to start us off. Devin, I have a question for you, even though we just did this and I know the answer. Have you caught up on X-Men 97?
I'm not, and I really
You're
want to
not.
be.
Wait, hold on. I forgot to do something.
Listen, I missed
Yeah.
the soundboard. I missed this part of the soundboard. There's definitely a couple of things on the soundboard I really hope didn't port themselves over. That part I definitely missed.
That one?
Yes, that one. It's just the worst every time.
And you ask for it.
I don't.
And you ask for it every single time. Whenever
hope-
you you open up the door to be disappointed.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like something that you live off of.
I think about this song once every like 3 weeks, and I'll go, yeah, that's a really bad song again. And then anytime it like hoves into my like consciousness, I just go, yeah, that's a really bad song. So Alan with the soundboard reminded me that it was a bad song, so I had to say something. I have to say something. It's just the worst. I'd rather listen to real seals, real of them.
Oh, I forgot I had that one.
Look at the George of the Jungle one.
Forgot. Well, speaking of sounds from the 90s that you don't like, I'm going to play one that you might like. Devin, you're not caught up on X-Men, so I'm going to spoil it for you.
Okay.
I'm going to play something for you. You got to tell me if this sounds familiar to you.
Yes, of course it does. That's my childhood. This is really
Yeah.
is really my childhood.
Yeah, as much as I love the X-Men 97 show, like I appreciate the X-Men animated series from the 90s. The Spider-Man one is the one I watched. Spider-Man makes a cameo in this week's episode, along with another Marvel character I'm not going to spoil for you, Devin.
Silver Surfer, got it.
You're not far off.
Oh, it's Howard the Duck! Yes! I didn't know this. We didn't talk about this
No.
before. This is me guessing.
No, there's somebody in that realm of characters that
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Somebody who's appeared in a film with the Silver Surfer shows up in the show. I'll say that.
Ah.
But yeah, Spider-Man comes in this episode for a moment, and I'm very, very excited to see what the last two parts of this series have in store. So
Do they ever class Spider-Man as a mutant? Like, is he count as a mutant? Or is
he
just like a dude?
I think they do count him as a mutant. I forget. They invite him to join the X-Men in the Spider-Man animated series because he's going through that mutation of growing the extra arms and becoming a spider.
Man Spider, right?
Man Spider, yeah. So I don't think he's actually a mutant, but he could be.
At that point, I feel like you're just splitting hairs. Like, he's
Yeah.
basically a mutant. Let him
Basically.
in the club, guys.
Basically. Yeah.
Ryan does not agree.
Are you going to question Charles Xavier?
Yes.
you've got, this is going to be horrible, and I mean it as a joke from someone who stutters, so people calm down. That is kind of like having a bunch of people, like, that's kind of like a bunch of people who've been dealing with stuttering their whole lives, like coming up to someone who only just started stuttering because they were in a car accident and going, you've dealt with everything that we've dealt with.
All right, that's fair. That's
I
totally
mean,
fair.
kind of in a way. I mean, granted, they're just, you still have to deal with it. But, like, I feel like it's kind of like one of those things. Like, yeah, you're dealing with the same exact thing that we're dealing with, but, like, you kind of missed out on the whole, like, being picked on the playground type.
I think so. I think at least with Ms. Marvel, the way Marvel's handling it now is I think in the MCU, Kamala Khan has the X gene, but it's dormant, and then the things that she wears on her arms awaken it, so that starts her mutation. So so when they say some kind of mutation, when they say that, you hear. I need more.
So we were talking about Miss Marvel there, not Spider-Man.
Well, well, Spider-Man kind of is the same way. Like if the mutated spider bite changed things, like he get bit by the spider and you hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you really?
That's true.
No, you could, but that's what they do with Ms. Marvel, like some kind of mutation. Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
That's
So,
funny.
Okay.
Do I want to rant about the fact that I missed the Spider-Man trilogy in theaters again, or do I just want to move on?
Yes. This is like I feel like this is like core to your personality.
It is. So
Why did you miss it?
So they've been re-releasing the Spider-Man films to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Columbia Pictures over the last 3 Mondays. So they've been releasing the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films in theaters. And when they announced it, I was like, yes, I'm going to go. And the closest theater to me is like an hour away. And they've been doing them more throughout the week, but they still are an hour away. And I was like, I'm not driving that far to see Spider-Man 3. I wanted to see 2 in the theaters. Because I never actually saw those films in theaters. I saw them at the drive-in.
Oh wow, I didn't know
So
that.
so my hope is that the drive-ins shows them around us. Because our local drive-in is showing retro stuff this summer because they're showing The Fall Guy and Twister this weekend. So
Is it still the Cumberland Drive-In, or do
Yep.
you have another local drive-in by you?
I have one closer to me now since I
way.
moved. Yeah. Harz
Oh.
Drive-In. So
How is that one? Is that one cool?
I haven't been there yet.
That's
So.
Dillsburg?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I saw Shrek there.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I got. Nothing interesting there. I saw
Um,
Shrek there.
Yeah. In other Marvel news, I watched Avengers Endgame to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of that film, which we talked about before. I'm going to say again. It hits differently 5 years later when the title card 5 years later comes up.
Have these been an extra long 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. For everyone else?
It's been extra long, but also like super fast. Like it doesn't seem like it's been 5 years. It's very bizarre. Just like this week, I keep thinking it's Thursday. It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
I thought it was Wednesday on Monday. Like it's just been.
Oh, you're
It's
in
been a
for one,
weird
man.
week. Oh yeah. But yeah, it's knowing where the MCU goes now. This one is a different watch because you know where some of these characters end up and what happens to the Guardians and Thor and all of that. So, and like Scarlet Witch when she comes in at the end. So. It got me excited for Marvel again. I'm excited for Marvel. I'm glad they're taking like a year off and just giving us one film and a few animated shows. Like we need a break. They need to reset a little bit, and I'm excited to see what happens in the future.
I had a talk today with somebody that said this was the last good Marvel like movie property.
No.
I forgot that No Way Home came out after this.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. But it definitely is the end of an era, this one, because it felt like it had a lot more direction to me up until Endgame.
I mean, you also got Guardians 3 though.
That's fair, and I like Guardians 3.
Yeah. And the Marvels wasn't bad.
I still gotta watch it.
Alright,
I'm
that
mad
might-
at me that I didn't watch it.
I might have to bring that up on the list here soon.
Good.
But you know what you can watch that they put on Disney Plus along with Endgame? Like right next to like the title card was like watch Endgame to celebrate 5 years of Endgame, and then it went over, and then it was Ben Affleck's Daredevil,
Yes.
which I did a
Oh,
review,
here for
which
it.
I did a review of with Josh on Brilliant but Lazy, which will be posted soon. I just have to get it off of my hard drive. We recorded it like
How-
2 months ago.
Oh, how much of the review was you spent talking about how great Evanescence is?
Oh, we talked about
All
it.
of it.
We talked
You
about
better
it. Yeah.
have, because that is
Yeah.
a good song.
Yeah, I forgot how much Evanescence is in it,
It's a
And-
lot of Evanescence.
and we watched the director's cut, which cuts a scene where they use Evanescence. Like the love scene's gone,
That's weird.
but that song is still in the movie. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
The funniest thing about watching that movie is the Evanescence song comes on during the like the training montage, and like a lot of it's Elektra training, and then it cuts to Ben Affleck's Daredevil, Matt Murdock training, putting on the Daredevil suit, and it's the guy singing his verse. It's all this time I couldn't believe I couldn't see, and I'm like,
oh no! That's really spot on.
yeah, the
gross.
early 2000s Marvel films. There's nothing like it.
Watch that one.
Yeah. All right. Ryan, you said you had something, but it's not something you watched. It's something you couldn't watch. You
I'm
want
so
to
excited
elaborate?
about this talk.
So, as everyone knows on here, I'm kind of a car guy, and my the way that I geek out on that or nerd out on that is Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May. As far as I'm concerned, they are Top Gear, like that show. And I follow them on social media, YouTube, all that other stuff. But for the past 2 months, almost all of the Top Gear episodes have been on that Freevee thing that Amazon Prime had. And when I wake up in the morning, I turn it on, and it's on my phone, and that's what I listen to when I get ready for work. When I'm at work and I go to lunch, I put on what the next episode is, and I either scroll my phone, I watch it, whatever. That's my background that I've been using for the past 2 months. And I woke up this morning, and I went to the next episode, which is my favorite episode 1 of season 4, and it said that it wasn't available, and I'm like, not available? Are we signed in correctly? We're signed in correctly. I went back to check the seasons. 1 through 5, or 1 through 6, not available in any context at all. And then 6 or 7 through the rest of what they had, you had to pay for the episodes or for the seasons.
Weird.
And I freaked out. I was almost late to work this morning because I was on my phone, on my Xbox, on my iPad trying to figure out what had happened, because I saw nothing about it. My day was ruined up until we were sitting here and Alan made a comment earlier, and I went to Pluto, and it's all on Pluto. So I'm not going to sit here and rant like I was going to.
I'm going to jump in here. When you brought up what this was that you wanted to talk about, Devin said in our group chat he will talk about this as well. And Devin, what did you call yourself exactly?
I'm a bad Top Gear fan.
What
Okay.
does that mean?
Explain
All right.
yourself.
So, Ryan, you are the car guy on the podcast. If you had to guess, right, how much do you think I actually know about cars? Like actually.
Okay, well, I do know that you learned how to change your own brakes and stuff,
Yeah.
right? You mentioned that.
I can
But
do
then-
those things.
But then when it comes to liking cars, wanting to know about cars and stuff
Mhm.
like that, I'm gonna say that your Sims personality score on that is at a 1.
Yes. So, fun
Okay.
fact about Devin, I have seen every single episode of Top Gear at least twice, including after Jeremy James and Hammond leave.
Yeah.
I've seen some of those. I've even seen some American Top Gear. Do you know the only things they've ever actually taught me about cars? I now know what a Reliant Robin is, and I know what a Bugatti Veyron is. That's it. I learned nothing about cars from that show.
So you're not a bad. Okay, so here's the thing. There's no such thing as a bad fan of Top Gear because you like Top Gear because of the personalities, because of the joking, because of the back and forth. That's fine. That's part of what makes that show great is the fact that it draws people like me and other people in who know more about cars than I do that like cars.
Yeah.
And likes to hear their opinions of them and watch them test drive them and talk about them. But then it also brings people in that love to watch, Clarkson hammer down on James May. Like it's one of those things that like it brings people together. So you're not a bad fan. You're just not a car fan. Like that's what it is.
For in the most British way I could possibly phrase it, I'm just here for the band. I don't care about the cars. I'm literally just here for the host to banter. I'm here for the silly episodes. My favorite one is when they make mobile homes out of cars that are street legal in the UK, and
they push them off the. They push the one off the cliff.
Yeah, well, in the UK, the conceit is you can't build a vehicle that's much larger than a car unless you have a special lorry license.
Yeah.
So they build up instead of out, and you get like 3 or 4 story cars. It is very fun. That's the kind of stuff I love, which is why I like Grand Tour, what they're doing now, because it's mostly just that kind of stuff.
That's what I did on lunch today, and the thing is, I like Grand Tour, I really do, but it's not.
It's not Top Gear.
It's not. They had such chemistry, and the writers on Top Gear, themselves, they had everything planned out because they did it for years, and it was there was something there, and and Grand Tour started to get like that in the last season, but then Amazon didn't carry on with the show. So it was right when it started to get its run of feeling like its own version of Top Gear.
Well, they stopped it. They have a new one coming out this year, right?
They're doing specials, right?
Yeah. They're doing specials, and which is great because I love all 3 of them together. Because the only way that I like Jeremy Clarkson is when he's talking about cars. Because if you
like Diddley Squat Farm,
I'm not a big fan. Well, I mean, okay, I haven't seen it. I haven't had the opportunity to see it yet. I probably would really like it. Clarkson, I like him. There are just certain things that we're not on the same page about, which is perfectly fine. It's fine, whatever. But I really him, and I share some really strong opinions about cars, which is one, SUVs are stupid. I'm sorry, they just are. So anyway, the reason why I got so upset about this is because, like I said, for the past 2 months, I've been watching this for background, stuff. And I've been making myself lists of top 5s and top 10s so that I don't, because I'm bad at information retrieval in my head. So so I've been making these lists, and I've been doing my 10 favorite Top Gear episodes so that if I ever wanted to, I could go on Amazon, purchase these specific episodes, and I'd be fine in case something like this were to ever happen.
It's not a bad call, though.
Okay, so, and the majority of, and I started in season 16 a few weeks ago. So I was waiting to go back around the the front end, watch it from season 1 again, and work my way back up to 16, so I can really get an idea of which episodes I really like. So far, I've only got six episodes planned out, and a holiday special and a trip special. So
it's not bad.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on something quick that it's I think the reason this disappeared from Freevee is it's the first of the month, so they cleared out a bunch of stuff, because I know I saw on Reddit that somebody who was watching Lost on there went to go watch the show and it was gone. So it's that time of the month where first of the month they're going to clear out things on all the different platforms. Things go away, things get added. So
and it was just it was frustrating. But yeah, I mean, that's where like this is one of my like cornerstone like background TV shows, and I got like I said, I was almost late for work because I was like, no, I have to figure this out beforehand, and I was even Alan me. It was like check some of the other places, and I downloaded Pluto, and all of the early seasons are there. I'm not sure, like all of the seasons that are unavailable are on there. I don't know about the later seasons yet, but I'll check.
What I know is every time I go to like the Freevee channels or the Pluto TV channels, like the ones where you can go through and there's stuff on, you don't have to select anything. You just go through and find what's on. It's usually there are three things that are on: Golden Girls. Frasier is on. There's a few things. Like you can either find Golden Girls or Frasier on one of the channels. Top Gear, and then Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
What a solid lineup, though.
Right?
It is. It's just.
And if it's not
like,
if it's not Beyond Belief, it's Unsolved Mysteries. Like I think they have the same channel and they just rotate through them all.
It's incredible.
I just can't take Matt LeBlanc and that group of presenters. I can't watch those episodes.
I thought he was all right. I didn't think he was so bad.
Their chemistry wasn't right. It wasn't until they got like the third set, like the set of like the race car driver, the comedian, and the cricket player. I don't remember their names, but like they were okay. Like I'll watch those occasionally, but like
that sounds like a setup to a bad joke.
It is. It is honestly on some of those episodes, but yeah.
All right, let's get even more British and talk about Devin's pick for the week. The first entry into the proper James Bond franchise, Dr. No, starring Sean Connery.
All right, well, I'll take it from here then. Dr. No was released in 1962, directed by Terrence Young, starring Sean Connery, the second ever James Bond. We'll talk. And Ursula Andress as the first ever Bond girl, Bernard Lee as M, and Joseph Wiseman as Dr. No. This is, of course, adopted from the Ian Fleming, who I will now and forever refer to as Ian Fleming. That's how he sounds when he talks. It's hilarious. Adopted from the Ian Fleming novel Dr. No of the same name. That's also not always true about James Bond movies. Most of the time, they'll just rip the title and come up with a new plot. So this one actually follows the plot of the book and was picked for a few specific reasons that we'll also get into. Guys, if you can't tell, I like James Bond a lot, and I know so much and cannot wait to talk to you both about it.
Okay. Can I, just for my own sanity?
Yes.
I know he's not the first James Bond because we both alluded to it. Can I take a guess at who the first James Bond was?
Do it.
Peter Sellers?
That's who I have.
Okay.
The first James Bond.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. In the TV series, right?
No, in Casino Royale.
Oh, yeah. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I have him as, it's the TV series.
Okay.
Yeah. He was the first one.
Nice.
So,
I know
before we dive into this is a franchise that has been running, obviously, since the 60s. What are both of your histories with James Bond as a franchise before we even get into No at all?
I think the first James Bond film I saw was Die Another Day with Pierce Brosnan and Halle Berry.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And the Madonna song. That was my first. I saw that on DVD.
You know what? Song holds up.
Yeah. Because she will die another day.
She certainly will.
I played GoldenEye like everyone our age on N64 at a friend's house a lot. Didn't understand what the game was, but that's how I know the like opening with like down the barrel of the gun. Yeah. My first James Bond experience on the big screen was Skyfall. I saw that in college. I was going to say something else, but I remembered I saw Skyfall because I think friend of the show Chad wanted to go see it, and so we went. So
it's a good choice.
Yeah.
Ryan, what's your history with Bond?
Pretty extensive.
Great.
I think at some point I have seen every Bond film.
Okay, so this will be
when I
mostly
was
me
younger.
pulling Alan along, which is good.
Well, I mean, when I was younger, and I've only seen a lot of these original ones like once
Okay.
when I was like 11, 12, or 13. So I don't remember a lot of this stuff except for like key scenes. But my first Bond movie that it was like, you know, like not not age appropriate, but like, you know, when it came out and like I was young, and so kind of like my first, you know, like Bond movie for the year that it came out in theaters or whatever was GoldenEye.
Oh, wow.
And I was obsessed with it. I had the video game. I think I played that more than really any other one that I had. And then from there it was the rest of the Pierce Brosnan ones, and then I like fell out of it to where when like Skyfall and Casino Royale came out, like I was just in it. And I think that's just because I went so hard and heavy in liking the James Bond movies for a while
Sure.
that it's I think I did the same thing I did with Marvel to where like I got to a certain point and I was just like, yeah, I'm good.
You overdid it.
Yeah, like I don't need to see these movies. I'm good. I'm good with mine. You will have fun with those, but I'll be here with mine and I'll be happy. Like that's kind of how I dealt with it.
It's fair. So
I-
letting you know how ingrained this was in my whole life growing up. Not only was I shown these films multiple times, I've seen them since childhood, but when we got our very first computer, it was a Hewlett Packard big gray one, the one that everyone had, and my dad found out that you can actually change the default Windows sounds on the phone or on the thing. So anytime you did something wrong on the computer, instead of getting the annoying Windows bong, you would get Blofeld going, "Think twice, Mr. Bond." And then anytime you did something good, instead of getting the little accept noise, you got one of the Bond ladies, I think it was Pussy Galore, going, "Oh, James." And this is like 8-year-old Devin navigating a computer, successfully clicking something, and then getting, "Oh, James," every time. It was incredible.
I'm really surprised you turned out the way you did, given that, because that's just like Devin getting fed sexual and innuendos nonstop using the computer.
Yeah. So, I am all in on James Bond. I love these movies. I love going back to them periodically. I don't do it often, but when I do, it's a good time.
Real quick, I took my
Yeah.
tie off because you can't see it on the way I'm sitting on the my camera
Oh.
anyway. So I threw it off to the side of my arm that I have my lights on. Just caught it naturally.
Oh, that's
very,
really
very,
cool.
very
That's the
impressed
most-
with myself.
The most James Bond way you could have thrown that.
No, not gonna say it. That's not what your mother said last night, Trebek.
That is one of the first things
Yes.
I think of when I think of comics.
Yes.
But, okay. So, before I want to know, what did you both think of Dr. No? Alan for the first time, Ryan for probably the second or fifth time.
Second, yeah.
You know, I don't know if this was my first time because I remember they showed this on like ABC at one point and I tried watching it. And because I remembered like the blind mice thing at the beginning. I'm like, what the hell is this? And why do I remember? It's like, oh yeah, I think I did try to watch this once, like back when Die Another Day was coming out. Like they had it on something, and I was like, I'll watch the first James Bond. I'll get into the James Bond movies. They look fun. And I watched this, and I was like, not for me.
No,
It's okay. I'm more familiar with the Austin Powers movies at this point, and you can definitely see the layout, like the groundwork for International Man of Mystery in this one.
yes.
So I think it's fine. I think it's the first entry into the film franchise. I think it's not the best Connery because I have seen Goldfinger.
Oh, yeah.
Because I did a tribute. I think we did that on here actually. We did a tribute to
did.
Sean Connery, and we talked about Goldfinger then. So not my favorite Connery Bond film, but it's a solid entry into to start off the franchise.
This might be your favorite where he's not wearing a toupee.
Yeah.
We'll talk about his hair progression. Trust me. Ryan, what did you think?
Oh, I wasn't expecting to laugh as much as I did.
Yeah, man.
And
Okay.
it's more or less so like the first time I saw this, I think it was during like a TNT or USA Channel, like marathon that was going on
Yeah.
because of one of the Pierce Brosnan movies or whatever. And watching it back then, I was like, "Oh, cool, a Bond movie, like an action movie," and like seeing Sean Connery and going, "Oh, okay, so this is supposed to be like a handsome guy in the '60s." Okay, got it. And like as like a preteen or something watching or teenager watching, like, okay, whatever. And now, as an adult watching it, and whenever they showed his face, I'm like, he looks like he's melting. Sean Connery looks like it's just like just hold normal face, no, deadpan, just looked like his face was melting. And I'm like, I can't help but like see this stuff. So like the Three Blind Mice thing was hysterical. Like I totally forgot about that. But yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to get into some of this stuff because some of it's silly. And my thing, we're talking about Top Gear. My thing is Bond cars and like what they pick and everything. And I totally forgot that it wasn't the DB5 in this; that it was the Sunbeam.
Yep.
And we have to get into that because I have opinions.
I don't, so I'm excited to hear yours. So to both of your point, actually, at the time when this movie came out, critical reception was basically in line with you guys. There were some people that absolutely loved it. Time magazine called Bond a blithering bounder that looked like a great big hairy marshmallow who almost always manages to seem silly.
Yeah.
So at the time, people thought I was that too.
Do you think that's where they got the character idea for Austin Powers? They just took that description and like, that's going to be the main guy.
Just ran with it. I really think so. I really do. And the other part is that a paper called The New Republic at the time said that the film never manages to decide whether it's suspense or it's a suspense spoof. And there are some times when you can kind of see that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When they're fighting on top of the platform that's slowly lowering into the radioactive water and then stops.
No!
And then stops. So that there's no danger. Like, you're like, oh my god, one of them is going to get dunked in the water, and then it just stops at the edge of the water, and you're like, it stopped moving.
It's just done. It's done now. It's okay. So, all right. So this brings me to one of my favorite things about early Bond. I have notes everywhere. One of my favorite things about early Bond is that there are genuinely funny moments in every one of the early Bond movies. Some of the Bonds, so once we start getting to Lazenby, they start getting into camp, and they know that they're camp, and they lean into camp. But sometimes they're unintentionally funny. What was your guys' unintentionally funny, or maybe intentionally, depending on where the writers were going, moment in this that you're like, that's hilarious?
For me, it's the Three Blind Mice thing at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm so used to what Bond films are now, and this one opens with three blind mice, and then plot twist: they aren't blind, but they've got Tommy guns.
That's fair. Also, fun fact about that: the guy that got killed, one of the three blind mice, was his dentist. Now you can't unknow that.
I can very easily unknow that.
Ryan, what was your favorite unintentionally funny part?
So, to me, and this is might be odd to some people, but like, I'm looking at my notes because I did make notes, and I have in capital letters, why did it explode, and a bunch of laughing emoji faces.
Is it the car when it went off the cliff?
Yes, because yes, it was. So like you asked, I looked at my phone and I'm like, why did it explode? I'm like, well, why didn't I write down what was happening? What exploded? And then I was trying to remember what it was, and it was the car. Because like, it's a trope in Hollywood that like, if a car gets dinged, it goes poof, like it just explodes. That is almost what happened here. It's this giant car literally is just rolling down a hill. Like, it's not tumbling end over end. It's not like smashing up its front. It's not landing on a hard surface from like 100 feet up. It is literally just quickly rolling down a hill, and it just randomly explodes. And I accidentally woke Kristen up when I laughed at that, because it just happens out of nowhere. And it's almost funnier than his one-liner at the end,
where he's
Oh
like,
yeah, for
where are
the
they going?
funeral.
Yeah, to a funeral.
Yeah.
I have two unintentionally funny parts. One of which I like ran the laptop over to show Romana. One of them when he's talking to Honey Rider on the beach. This does start the trope of bad Bond names or bad Bond girl names.
Bad or brilliant?
We'll watch a few more.
Yeah.
We'll find out. He's talking to her on the beach, and there's a scene. It cuts to them talking, and you can very clearly see a microphone in the bottom left corner of the screen.
Oh
To the
yeah.
point where I had to stop, rewind, and go, is it someone's head? What is that? Like, I spent 20 minutes figuring out that it was a microphone. That part, and this might be a specific to me part that I thought was very funny, but the opening bit, right after the Three Blind Mice bit, it cuts to 4 people playing cards, just trying to out-British each other.
Mm-hmm.
Literally,
Yeah.
it's just like, their lines are just like, oh, order a drink on my chit, will ya? Or you better get back before the cards get cold. It's like, what are you talking about? Like,
I had
stop.
I had to rewind that scene 3 times to even understand the words that were coming out of their mouth because they were talking so fast.
Oh, it's so funny.
I didn't know they were
funny.
I didn't know they were speaking English. So
So, there is another part, and I wrote this down. I just remembered. So, when James is in the airport, and he gets out of the phone booth, and and the person who ends up being the CIA agent, like checks the phone booth or whatever. When you look in the background, there are 3 people sitting on a bench inside the airport, and they are staring at everything that's going on the whole time. So like, I don't know if they didn't get the direction or if that was like, some like background British humor, but the people sitting on the bench by the phone booths were staring at James Bond and that other actor the entire time.
I am sure they weren't told what was happening. So this was a British production, filmed primarily both in Jamaica and in Pinewood Studios, which is right down the road from me.
Yeah.
And it was a very nascent studio at that time, and it was like kind of knew what they were doing.
hold on a second.
What?
How close are you to Pinewood?
Like a 10-minute drive.
Really?
Really, really.
I'm gonna come visit you this weekend.
Listen, this is a free bed. You're welcome to it.
I didn't know you were that close to Pinewood. You know how much stuff is filmed at Pinewood, right?
A lot of stuff is filmed. Specifically, the train sequence in Mission Impossible 1 and this movie. That's all I know.
Really? That's all you know?
No, there's a lot more.
The Death Star.
I didn't know the Death
Yeah.
Star was at Pinewood.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, all of Star Wars is Pinewood except for the stuff they shot in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. I gotta go visit them.
Yeah. Well, wait for me.
That's
I'll
a-
come out and visit.
Yeah, and we can get Harry Potter studio tour tickets too, because that's also.
Me.
Yeah. So, back on James Bond. Not only is this movie unintentionally hilarious, there are also, I think, watching this again, genuinely cool parts where I can see why this took off as a franchise. What part did you guys think was or was actually quite cool? That you were like, I see why this took off. I'll go if you guys don't have one called up.
I do have one. I don't know if it's like cool, if this is something that other people picked up on that was neat, but like James and Honey are like, they get caught, they get brought in for decontamination, and then they're treated like actual guests. When the entire movie, like, James is being hunted and and he's trying, and they're trying to legit kill him. And when they finally capture him, they treat him humanely. And I thought that was really interesting. I completely forgot about that whole thing. There were other moments where I don't know if they were meaning to be silly, but the whole dragon thing, it ends up being a tank. Like, come on, you didn't really think that was a dragon.
It's got little teeth painted on it, all right? The 60s were a different time.
Yeah, the 60s were a different time, but that was only, what, like...
Hey, they were stoned. They didn't know the difference.
Probably.
It was the 60s, man.
Yeah, everyone was stoned.
Yeah.
They thought it was a dragon because they were puffing the magic dragon.
That's the underlying plot here.
People's stonedness in the 60s is extremely overstated. Extremely weak strains back then.
The British can't hang.
No.
But I'm pretty sure Jamaicans can. They should know better.
Fair.
Yeah, they're in Jamaica. Of course.
Speaking of, best scene in the whole movie is when Quarrel sits down on a literal like tower of red stripe. I love that so much because I just went, red stripe. Yeah. Any other cool like actually cool scenes for you guys? Because I have mine.
I was surprised that they killed a guy with a flamethrower.
Yeah.
Like I was not expecting that in early James Bond, because I had to rewind. It's like, wait, did they just? Oh yeah, they did. Okay.
Yeah. That and the blood. Like I do know that, like in the 50s during like the spaghetti westerns and stuff, and like and even like Dead Smoke, like a lot of people died, but it was like they get shot and they just go, and then they fall over. Like there's no blood or anything. And when they roll over the secretary, I was like, actual blood. Okay.
My genuinely favorite part of this movie is when the professor goes to kill him in his hotel room, and he shoots the bed, and then he's sitting at the edge of the bed, and he pulls up his gun, and he goes to shoot, and it's unloaded, and James Bond goes, "That's a Smith & Wesson, and you've had your six." Just, chills. That is such a good line. So well delivered.
That's a Smith and Wesson. You've had your six.
It's just, literally every time that line gets me, and like I forgot about that line again until it happened again, and I was like, yeah, all right, I can see this.
And that's how you get and that's how you get the attention of generally an American audience, is having the main character know his guns or their guns.
Well, speaking of that, this movie starts a lot of trends that are going to be kind of a formula for James Bond moving forward. One of which,
PPK.
at the beginning, is Walther PPK. That is a huge thing. Ryan, do you have thoughts on the PPK?
I think it's a good gun for the character.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Like
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Is that the gun at the beginning with where he turns? What are we talking about?
So in the beginning, he's in M's office.
Yes.
He walks in, and he's like, "Give me." I think he has a Beretta. He's like, "Give me
Yeah.
your Beretta. It failed you last time, or it didn't fire." And he's like, "What's been great? Like, it doesn't fire. You're using this one now."
Don't forget
And
to take
he like
out your
explains
trash
the gun. The
cans.
gun's a Walther PPK, and that becomes the standard Bond gun moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did Alexa go off again?
It did.
So that starts in this movie. Also, this is where we get the Bond girl. This is where we get the opening credits that look the way they do. This is also where we get things like Spectre coming up. We also get Felix in this movie. And I genuinely forgot that, like, Spectre and Felix start in movie 1. And I thought they were themes that come up later as James Bond moves on. And was honestly really pumped to see them.
Okay,
You guys-
I'm
yeah. Go
I'm
ahead.
having my like memory recall issue. Who are those two again?
So Felix Rider is the basically American version of James Bond.
Oh,
He
okay.
pops up in many different forms throughout the entire series. He's played by a relatively famous actor now. Jeffrey Wright.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's played by Jeffrey Wright more recently. And then Spectre is the kind of large, shadowy criminal organization that underpins a lot of Bond's most famous bad guys.
Oh,
Kind
okay.
of famously, Blofeld is the bad guy or the big guy in charge of, and he's the one that they had redone in the new movies and had Christoph Waltz play as
Okay.
being in charge of Spectre.
Okay.
Have you seen those movies, Alan?
Yes, I saw the last one in theaters with Josh Howell in New York in Dolby
Oh, cool.
Dolby Cinema. So it was like
Oh, that's
super
exciting.
super high quality.
Yeah, see, that's very cool. That's how you got to see these kinds of movies.
Yeah. Well, I watched the other ones between that one and Skyfall on the train on the way into New York. So I went from watching them on my phone to watching them on the one of the best screens in the country. So
Yeah, that must have been a really, really good like switch then, I bet.
yeah.
So, based on this movie, would you guys have started a franchise knowing that this is just the movie and how it is? Because I understand where the franchise goes and think that it has better iterations. I don't know that if I was making a franchise, I'd be like, yeah, this is the movie.
But there's a lot of possibilities. Like, corporate America likes to take the words problems and issues and replace them with possibilities because, like, they're things you can fix.
Sure.
I hate company jargon. Anyway, there's a lot of that in this movie. So I'm just going to name a few that stand out to me.
Yeah.
The opening credit scene, this is the worst out of all of them. And it's the first one. So I understand that. But it's like the guy turns very jerkingly. His clothes don't fit right. It looks comical when he turns and points the gun. So that can be fixed. Sean Connery playing the character, a little bit more effort could have been put into it in some of the scenes because I feel like he was just stone faced for some of the time, and not stoned face, but like just like no emotion.
Sure.
And some of the side characters could be a little bit less cartoonish. You make those changes and you've got a pretty decent like spy movie that like has some quality to it. So like if I was a studio exec and I saw that this did somewhat decently in theaters, I'm like, let's try this again. Fix these things and let's try this again. And then just like go from there. And then if that does well, then you continue with the series.
That's fair. I can see that. And, that might actually have been the way that it takes, just looking at how the production for these movies happened.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into that when we talk about the next the next movie in line. We literally have to, because after that, things get interesting in terms of the rights to James Bond. So we'll have to talk about that at that point. I think another thing that I wanted to bring up was the spider scene. Speaking of improvement,
That's so stupid.
How did that read for you guys?
Like,
is that an annoying bad scene?
Like,
it
for
felt
how much sorry,
it felt out of place. Like it's just weird.
Yeah.
Like, but they're in Jamaica, so.
I mean, like a poisonous snake or something would have been better than like a spider. I feel like someone on set or someone involved with the writing had a phobia of spiders and was like, a spider's the scariest thing to them, so it'll translate to audiences because I'm scared, so everyone else must be scared. And it's just like kind of silly, and especially now because it doesn't age well, because I feel like for some reason a lot of things haven't gotten better in general, just education or just awareness in general in society. One of them that did is like spiders. Like when I was a kid, I think everyone thought tarantulas were like, it's like, it's like they touch you and you die, like type thing. And now, like, it's almost generally known that, like, yeah, tarantulas are just giant furry spiders. They're fine. They're harmless. I mean, except for some of them. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so that was just kind of like silly. Like that was one of the silly things in this movie that happened. Where I was just like, it's the '60s. It's the.
So this is a bit, specifically the tarantula scene's a bit that I knew more about before I watched the movie, because my dad told me all about this. So first off, in the book, this is lifted from the book, this scene, which is why it's included in the movie. It was never a spider, it was a centipede. Which, like, okay, and they figured that a spider would translate better. But the spider that they used was certainly non-poison, or non-venomous.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close to a type that was venomous. In fact, the spider's name was Rosie, which is adorable. But Sean Connery had a deathly phobia of spiders. So when the spider is crawling on a shoulder, that is a stunt double. When it is very clearly on Sean Connery, and if you watch it again, you can very much see this. They put a plate of glass
Yeah.
over top of Sean Connery and have the spider crawl along the plate of glass on top of Sean Connery. And it's most noticeable in transition from his chest to the pillow, where the spider doesn't change altitudes at all. He's just going in a straight line.
Yeah, that was one of those things where it's like, as soon as they showed it, like that scene, like that cut, I'm like, that doesn't look right. Like
No.
that's like,
Something off about
It's
like I was like, that's not right.
that's something you could get away with on film, like when it's projected, but when you restore it to 4K, it's not gonna hold up.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta know. So, did you guys watch this in 4K? Because I know that Amazon had it streaming in 4K. You guys watched it?
I watched the
Yeah.
remastered version. It wasn't in 4K, but it was the remastered. Because at the end, I got all the credits about who did the remaster. So
Oh yeah, I got the same thing.
Yeah, and same here. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, I remember Sean Connery in these movies being so much more like, I'm just gonna say it, handsome in these movies. And when I was watching this one, I'm just like, he looks like a sad puppy. Like, even when he's just like, you know, just kind of like standing there waiting for the secretary to stop talking so that he can give his line, he's got like, the cheeks are heavy and he's just looking and the eyes are kind of droopy and I'm just like, oh, someone wants a milk bone. Like, someone wants a...
I know what you're talking about. I feel like that might just be because they haven't developed the character of what James Bond is on film yet.
Yeah.
Like he's not the well dressed martini drinking spy that we come to know. He's wearing shorts and like a Hawaiian shirt
And he
the whole time.
He sings in this. That was like the most jarring part of it for me.
Mine was the sunbeam.
Well, okay, tell me about the sunbeam.
Okay, so when you have us do the next movie and the DB5 is in it, I will talk about the DB5 and all of that because that's the most historic James Bond car is the DB5 Aston Martin. So obviously the movies are based off a novel. Like, he's supposed to be this like suave type guy that like all the women fall over hills, fall all over him because of how handsome and whatever he is and all that other stuff. But like, he's British. It's the 60s. It's the late 50s, early 60s. British sport cars are like hot in a lot of places on the planet. And so the Sunbeam is one of many vehicles that they could have picked for it. And it's a fine car. It's not my personal favorite. It's in a good color. It's just knowing who the character turns into and knowing the type of stuff that like happens to James Bond, when you watch this and you're like, oh, a Sunbeam. Okay, it doesn't fit. Again, this goes all the way back to Tony Stark and the Infinity QC5, whatever he was driving in that movie that Alan had us watch that I went off about because it didn't make any sense.
Oh, that he was driving a car that didn't make sense for the character?
Well, I mean, not Tony Stark, but the actor. Like...
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
No.
That was a while ago.
This is the I know what you're talking about. The one where he has all those ghosts haunting him.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. What is that called?
Hold on.
Okay.
It's going to bug me.
Heart
I
and
will
Souls.
continue. So, what I'm getting to is that the Sunbeam is a perfectly fine roadster. It's good. The style, but it's not, for lack of a better term, hardcore enough. So like an MG, a Triumph, those older roadsters, you're almost sitting on the back axle. And the whole front of the car is in front of you. Like a huge long hood's in front of you. So like it's almost like a cartoon car. But like those are more of like the hardcore British roadsters. The Sunbeam, you're sitting directly in the middle. And with how tall Sean Connery is compared to how small that car is, it was like, it was like seeing him pedal a Flintstone little tight car, away from the people that were chasing him.
Real
But
quick,
it doesn't fit for me.
the film in question was called Heart and Souls. I had to go get the VHS tape to remember.
Yeah.
You have the VHS.
Yeah, it's like I know I have it on VHS. What is it called?
Yeah.
But yeah,
So yeah, I mean, like the Sunbeam's a fine car. I've got the history of it. I don't really need to go into that. But like, it's a fine car. It just, to me, it doesn't match the character because it's more of like a general like type of upper middle class, like, dad wants to get like a roadster to drive on the weekends because he finally has the money, to where like I see James Bond driving more of one of those hardcore British racers, like British roadsters, where he's practically sitting where the trunk should be starting and not in the dead center of the car.
Yeah.
Like that style, like more of like a more of a hardcore roadster.
It's to Alan's point, I think, that they're still finding out what that character looks like on film, how he acts
Mhm.
on film. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even, in the James Bond books, I mean, honestly, some of the older ones do not go back to read. They just don't. They're not good. And they have a lot of very questionable content in them. Not
Oh, of course.
But like they're still trying to find out who this character is, and I think that they nail a couple of them, like a couple of the major character beats. They absolutely nail in this one, and I think that they just start to slowly weed out the bits that don't necessarily work. And I think, I think Alan's absolutely right.
always.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Anything else?
the only other thing I have is my favorite production gap in this that almost ruins a really good scene for me.
Okay.
So there's this scene where he finally confronts Dr. No, right? The titular character of the movie, he gets to for maybe one whole scene in this movie. But it's a good scene. And that's where you get like the classic line of like, our asylums are full of people who think they're Napoleon or God. Ugh, give me more of that. However, in the background, you see this massive fish just floating around. And it is so distracting. And I understand that there's a line in it where he goes, oh, it's a magnification window to magnify the fish. The whole reason they added that line is because that got added at the last minute from stock footage of fish, and they forgot that it was extreme close-ups of fish until they threw it in the movie and had to rewrite a line.
Yeah.
So I love that. It is so distracting. And to be fair, I don't think they really quite nail the projections in this movie either.
No.
Because there are times when he's in the car chase doing this with the steering wheel, which I hate. And the car behind him looks like it's like 4 times the size of a normal car.
Yeah, so the Sunbeam was a small car, okay?
Yeah.
And the car that was chasing him was basically like a very, very, very early version of like a low riding SUV. So like there was a giant size difference there. But he wasn't actually driving a Little Tikes car. I was just trying to give an example before, but that scene makes it look like a Little Tikes car. Like that was just like, that is him sitting in, that's him sitting in the car going like this on the seat, and they have a projection behind him playing.
Yeah.
Like that's why they designed those cars they have now, like the trucks that have the flatbed on the back. They put the car on and the cameras, and they drive that around. So much better now. And they could have done that back then.
They could have. I also think like the projection stuff with the volume and LED screens has gotten a lot better since then too.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, is that it for Dr. No?
That's all I got.
All right.
About Dr. No, real quick.
Yeah.
I thought this movie, like, I was about to say that this movie did the ultimate, like, aged out cringe thing.
Ooh.
If it wasn't until the line where they said that Dr. No was half Chinese, half German, because up until that part, I was like, oh no, did they seriously cast a white actor to play a Chinese character?
Yeah.
I was like, are they really doing this? And then he threw in that line, I'm like, oh, thank God.
just wait till a future movie where Sean Connery has to pretend to be Japanese, and they get
Oh,
him a
no,
makeover.
I know about
it gets
that.
bad.
I know.
Konnichiwa. All right. So that does it for this week's episode. We're going to take next week off. Devin will be traveling, so we're going to take a week off. The following week will be my pick. I need to. I have options for that week. So I know what I want. I know what I want to do, but I need your guys' help. Do I want to do the original? Do I want to do the reboot? Do I want to do the remake? Or do we want to do a triple feature?
Oh my god, a triple feature.
Ryan?
I want to watch the same movie 3 times.
I'm just gonna go with Devin because
Okay.
I'm not gonna be able to give you a good answer.
So tune in 2 weeks where we'll be watching the original Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
Oh,
all leading up
what a
to
good feature.
all leading up to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which debuts that week. So I couldn't decide between the 3, so we're gonna watch all 3. So we'll watch the original, the remake, and then the reboot to the franchise. So
So
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy two out of 3 of those movies. Okay.
yes. I don't know. I want to say I know which one you're not going to like, but I don't know. You might like the one that I think you won't like. So
I like the Tim Burton one, just to let you know.
that's exactly what I thought. I knew you were going to say that. We'll talk about it in 2 weeks. And until next time, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitch, like us on Facebook, follow You Have to Watch This Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and check out rumrunnerspodcastnetwork.com for all of the other great Rum Runners podcasts. And until next time for You Have to Watch This Podcast, I'm Alan,
I am Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
and we'll see you next time.
Ooh, actually.